मम
श्रीकृष्ण शरणं 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 मम
शरणं मम
शरणं मम
शरणं मम
शरणं मम
शरणं
शरणं मम बोले श्री कृष्णचंद्र भगवान की
जय।
सद्गुरुनाथ महाराज की
जय।
कृष्ण मुरारी जय कृष्ण मुरारी
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 मुरलीधर पीतांबरधारी
मुरलीधर पीतांबरधारी
मुरलीधर पीतांबरधारी
मुरलीधर पीतांबरधारी
माई मीरा प्रभु गिरिधारी
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 कृष्ण मुरारी जय कृष्ण मुरारी
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 वृंदावन गोवर्धन धारी
वृंदावन गोवर्धन धारी
वृंदावन गोवर्धन धारी
वृंदावन गोवर्धन धारी
सूरदास के हृदय विहारी
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 कृष्ण मुरारी जय कृष्ण मुरारी
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 मुरलीधर पीताम्बरधारी
मुरलीधर पीताम्बरधारी
मुरलीधर पीताम्बरधारी
मुरलीधर पीताम्बरधारी
माई मीरा प्रभु गिरिधारी
माई मीरा प्रभु गिरिधारी
माई मीरा प्रभु गिरिधारी
माई मीरा प्रभु गिरिधारी
कृष्ण मुरारी जय कृष्ण मुरारी
कृष्ण मुरारी जय कृष्ण मुरारी
वृंदावन गोवर्धन धारी
वृंदावन गोवर्धन धारी
वृंदावन गोवर्धन धारी
वृंदावन गोवर्धन धारी
सूरदास के हृदय विहारी
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 कृष्ण मुरारी जय कृष्ण मुरारी
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 बोले वृंदावन बिहारी लाल की गिरिराज धरन की बोलो भाई सब संतन की सद्गुरुनाथ महाराज की आज के आनंद की जय।
Hari Om everyone. Can you all hear me loud and clear? If you can hear, please. Okay, thank you. Today is Dhanteras, so the start of 5 days of Deepavali. Deepavali is nicely sandwiched right in the middle, 2 days before and 2 days after. So today is the 13th day, tomorrow is the 14th, and 15th day, the Amavasya, is when there are several events. Lakshmi ji was born today, meaning she, along with Dhanvantri and several other forms that came out of the churning of the Milky Ocean. And by day after tomorrow, she's going to select the best one, which happens to be Bhagavan Vishnu. So today is the Udbhava Kala. So we welcome Lakshmi Devi into our house by getting several things, several new things, primarily gold and various other formats of jewelry, utensils, astra, shastra. Today is the day that, meaning today's astra shastra is this. So, so to have all of those and to worship Dhanvantari, Bhagavan Dhanvantari, he is the one who gave us the Ayurvedic knowledge. And based off of his Samhita, Dhanvantari Samhita, is 3 treatises written: Charaka Samhita, Sushruta Samhita, and Vakbhatta Samhita. One is pure diagnostics, one talks about medicines, and the other one talks about how to do different kinds of cures where medicine may or may not directly work. So, operations and post operative care, even that is covered. So, all of that from the main source, which is Dhanvantari Samhita. So, we worship Dhanvantari Bhagavan also. Many people ask when I keep digging out all these details and talking about it, Swamiji, it is not our tradition. Is this South Indian tradition? Is it North Indian tradition? So I have an objection with that question itself. See, when you say South Korea and North Korea, right, it talks about two different countries. When you say South America, North America, it talks about two different continents. When you say South India, North India, there are not two different countries or two different continents there. There's only one country. Southern part of the country and the northern part of the country, you can say. So that is my first objection. Second, all of these are various traditions. There are lokokti, that which is popular in certain places because of the traditions and beliefs, and the sampradayas. So it is not like it is divided into one part that side, one part this side. Those who understand it perform and observe all 5 days, specifically talking about Deepavali. But say in Andhra, Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, you see more prevalent, which is Naraka Chaturdashi, Deepavali, and Bali Padyami. But the same thing in other parts is celebrated in different way. It is good to know the depth of our culture and practices through the civilization. Having said that, happy Dhanteras to all of you. We will now begin with our invocation, and then I will request Hari Garu to lead us with the invocation and the 2 shlokas, and we will begin. ॐ सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्तिः गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुरेव परं ब्रह्मा तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः
तपोभिक्षीणपापानां शान्तानां वीतरागिणां मुमुक्षूणामपेक्ष्योऽयम् आत्मबोधो विधीयते. 9th and 10th. सच्चिदात्मन्यनुस्यूते
सच्चिदात्मन्यनुस्यूते
नित्ये विष्णौ प्रकल्पिताः.
नित्ये विष्णौ प्रकल्पिताः
व्यक्तयो विविधा सर्वाः
व्यक्तयो विविधाः सर्वाः
हाटके कटकादिवत्.
हाटके कटकादिवत्
यथाकाशो हृषीकेशः
यथाकाशो हृषीकेशः
नानोपाधिगतो विभुः.
नानोपाधिगतो विभुः
तद्भेदाद्भिन्नवद्भाति
तद्भेदाद्भिन्नवद्भाति
तन्नाशे केवलो भवेत्.
तन्नाशे केवलो भवेत्. धन्यवादः. दिव्या गारू.
Hari Om, can you hear me?
Yes.
Excellent. So the main ideas that were given in verse 5 up until now, the ideas are somewhat repeated because this is a very subtle topic, and constant analysis with repetition hopefully will get us to understand what is being given. So in verse 6, we were told that that which appears is only real as long as the dream continues. So the analogy of the dream was given. Then again, we were given the analogy of the silver on the pearl. So the real value of things is also an illusion. In verse 8, it was given that the existence is illusory and temporary, like bubbles. And in this verse, verse 9, that idea is repeated again, and it's a coincidence, I guess. The analogy given today falls on today, which katakadivat vyaktaha hatake. So just like the bracelet and other ornaments manifest out of gold. So today is an auspicious day to have this analogy. So let's look into the verse. Sarvaha vividaha prakalpitaha. So all this manifold is just projected by imagination. On what? And now we're given 4 different names for that ultimate substratum. Vishnu, Satchidatmani, Anusyute, then Nitye. So Vishnu, upon Vishnu, in the self whose nature is existence and consciousness, Anusyute, which is in the all-pervading, and Nitye, in the eternal. So these are all 4 different descriptions of the same ultimate substratum. And then again, we're given the analogy of Katakadivat Vyaktayaha Hatake. So the bracelets and ornaments are manifested out of the gold. So let's look at the analogy that's given. And it's also related to the previous verse where we were given that there are 3 factors that are necessary as a cause in order to manifest something. We saw the material cause, efficient cause, and instrumental cause. So material cause in this analogy is our gold. Our efficient cause would be our goldsmith and the skill set and intelligence that he has. And the instrumental cause, I guess you could say, is the furnace and the tools that he uses to fashion each of the gold ornament. But again, we have to remember that the analogy that's given is that there are 3 separate causes. But when it comes to this world as being projected onto that one reality is the one cause. It's not 3 separate realities that are causing our world. It is the one cause that acts as a material cause, efficient cause, and instrumental cause. So the point that's being made here again is that all of the various things that we see is a projection on the substratum. And so what are the words that were given for our substratum? Vishnu, right? Vishnu is not the four-armed chakra, gada, shanka, and padma, and four hands, but it gives a good analogy in the sense that Vishnu for us he's the protector and sustainer of our world. Well, we're going to dig into the meaning of that and saying that he protects and sustains as the very thing itself. He is all the projections that he is a substratum in all the projections that we see. We're just mistaking the different various ornaments, bracelets, and manifestation as different distinct things, but is really just manifestation of that one reality. And again, when it takes on different forms, like a necklace or an earring or a bracelet, that doesn't mean that it changes the nature of the gold itself. So just because I see chara or achara, jada or chaitanya, again, I'm not sure if that's the right word to do, but it's rocks versus a plant, something that moves, something that doesn't move. Just because I see those distinctions in manifestation doesn't mean that the reality is either jada or chaitanya. It is the existence consciousness principle that is the one and the same. And it is all pervading in through all of the manifestations. So if I were to take this in a form of a sadhana, then I have to keep in mind that I don't need to get caught up in the value and prestige of every manifestation that my body, mind, and intellect interacts with. Because we find necklaces and bracelets and all of that as valuable, but we forget that it's all one and the same, that it's just gold. So in the same way, when it comes to my body, how do I look? Do I look beautiful, or have I aged, or do I have black hair or gray hair? We go after value and prestige of thing that is finite. But we have to remember that this body is just a manifestation at this point, and it serves right now as a vehicle for this lifetime and the purpose to achieve it. So like medicine, I need to just treat it the way, handle it, make sure it's taken care of, and that it helps me function and achieve the goal that that I'm supposed to achieve in this lifetime. So that perspective of what it really is and understanding its purpose is the vision that we need to have. And this will carry forward to the next verse. Yata vibhuhu akashaha. Just as the all-pervading space, nana upadigataha tata bhedat. Because that space is associated with various conditions on account of their manifold nature distinct from each other, Bhinnavat bhati, that space appears to be diverse. Tat nashe hrishikeshaha bhavet kevalaha. So on destructions of the upadi, the omnipresent truth becomes one. So behind the multiplicity, there is again one changeless substratum that persists. And the word here, hrishikeshaha, doesn't necessarily indicate in this context the curly-haired Krishna or the short-haired Krishna here. The other meaning given is that it is the Hrishika Ishaha, so the Lord of the senses. So again, all of the things that we see through our body, mind, and intellect are perceptions through our channels of our sense organs. And when I have control and understanding that these senses can only pick up distinctions that are projected on there, that's what it can only do. But in my mind, I have to understand that that's just projection on that reality. So that's the kind of control and ishaha aspect of controlling our senses. Now, as long as the self, which is the Lord of the senses, reign over this body, so long alone we are unable to see, smell, touch, and speak. That's what Gurudev has explained in terms of why Hrishikesha is given. That it's because of that principle that even enlivens those sense organs in the first place. And so then we have to come to the upadhis and its association. The only reason I don't see that one changeless substratum is because I have this misunderstanding that I'm taking the nature of the projection, which is distinct, broken, and has its own characteristics, and I see that as the substratum as having those properties. So I'm mistaking which one has the properties, and I'm mixing the two up. So here, sadhana and vichara is to examine each and every single thing that I see in the world and realize that it's a projection. The distinctions that are made is the nature of the projection itself and not the substratum or the screen. And coming to realize that the distinctions are just illusory. The next verse, we will actually dig into specifically what are the natures of the distinctions that are being made. So that we'll go into more detail in the next verse. And with that, I think I will end here.
Thank you, ma. Harigaru.
Hari Om. Oftentimes we throw around the phrase, seeing is believing. Meaning if I can perceive something, I know the truth of it. And that perception is what gives me validity to come to a conclusion about this vastu, this situation. However, in these two shlokas, we find that that siddhanta doesn't hold true here. Seeing is not believing here. Pratyaksha pramana, meaning valid means of knowledge that come through the medium of perception, pratyaksha pramana, is useful in certain fields. When I want to smell something, see something, knowing the taste of something, knowing the sound of something. But when it comes to this atma-vichara here, I have to understand at this point that pratyaksha pramana is not what is the be-all end-all, because the siddhanta is given here of what that nature of the substratum is, about the illusion of creation, about all of the different conditionings that are there which make me think this world is real. If I only rely on pratyaksha pramana, I'll believe all of this to be true, that this world is real. I won't recognize that there is something beyond it. That substratum which I can't perceive, I have to take away these layers then. So starting in this 9th shloka, siddhanta is given that this manifold creation with all its varieties that I see, it is simply a mental projection, is the siddhanta given. But then I can have an objection to that, saying all around me, I see this world of cause and effect. From the most micro example of a certain vastu, like gold being turned into a ring, into a bracelet, into a necklace, all these different forms, there's that cause, all these various effects. All the way to the highest, that's macro. That these elements that I've learned about, they have all these different folds of creation all around me, which makes up the world. But then let's look at this example of gold being turned into these different vastus. I have a golden ring, for example. I label the gold as the cause. I label this golden ring as the effect. But upon a little further inquiry, I find, is this ring really different from that gold? It's made from that same material. Is it really any different? Like recently someone was saying, they cook, and when they make vadas, it's hard for them to make the hole in the middle of the vada. It only comes out as Bonda style of vadas. And that doesn't make a difference though. I will still eat them, relish them, because whether it's in this shape or this shape, it's the same. In fact, it's more of a bigger lump. It may be even tastier, who knows? But it's the same thing, regardless of the form that it's in. Swamiji saying no, he knows cooking better than I do, so I may have messed up there. But then back to the ring then. We see that it is only gold in essence. It's no different. So to call it an effect as something different from that cause is an erroneous label. Therefore, it loses the label of being an effect. Now, can you still call the gold a cause then? A man only assumes the label of a father if he has a child. Here, we've taken that child away. The ring is no different. It's just gold. How can we call that gold the cause then also? So the label of cause also falls away. Similarly, then in the world, all the effects we see and all the causes we think they come from, it's also the same thing. That substratum only gives rise to all of this. Now, the next step after that, if that substratum gives rise to all of this, doesn't that mean this is real also? That substratum is real, it's giving rise to all of this. If I'm saying that substratum is real and the world I see around me is also real, that's erroneous. There can only be one reality. Ekam sat advitiyam, only one reality. Therefore, by that logic, this entire creation only has to be a mental projection. Now, after I understand it's a mental projection, one pitfall I can fall into is, if I think that this world is my mental projection, Divyaji's world is her mental projection, Swamiji's world is his mental projection, I fall into a hole right there. Because the world should be changing based on what our projections are. A bowl looks like a bowl to me. It should look different for them if it's their own mental projection. So it's not based on what I individually see as a projection, has to be Maya then. A projection that has some uniformity to it that is perceived similarly by all. So Maya is inferred here, which will come later as well. So it's not really in the book, from the course, the book that I have here, we were told to cross out the word imagination, where it said projected by imagination, and put Maya there, saying that that's really a better term right there. So it's not just my individual perception. Now, how do we with this logic, we still have not accounted for all the types of variety out there that can still affect us, all the variety, which is why in the next shloka, we come to the concept of upadhi. Upadhi is merely a conditioning. And what is a conditioning? Something added on to whatever is basic. And we deal with conditionings on a daily basis. We impose conditionings on things. Your parent asks you, come to the store with me, help me get groceries so that we can bag it together and bring it back. The child in conditioning start immediately. Will you buy me a Kit Kat if I come? Can you buy me this toy if I come? These are add-ons that we have. Like that, something is the way it is, we put add-ons on it. So before getting the space example, let's look at one different example. If there's a sphatika, a clear jewel, it has no color to it. If I were to stand behind that jewel and you're looking at it, that jewel will appear yellow to you because of the cloth that I'm wearing looks like a yellow jewel. And you will think, okay, that jewel is yellow. But then I walk away and Swamiji stands behind it. That jewel has turned orange now. Swamiji walks away, Divyaji stands behind it. That jewel has magically turned white now. So whatever that conditioning behind it is, we assume that this jewel assumes that color. Now looking a bit deeper here, once I understand that all of these people are revolving around it, and that's why it's assuming that different color, after understanding that, even if that conditioning is present, after a few minutes, I go stand in front of it again, you're not going to go back to believing, oh, it turned yellow all of a sudden. You see that this fellow standing there, that's why it appears yellow. In the same way, then, what is the conditioning mainly that I have to fight in this world? My own equipment, where sometimes my mind will be oscillating. Sometimes this physical body will give pain at times, pleasure at times. Intellect will have clarity, more often than not, lack of clarity. All of these different conditionings are there, changes, but really the upadhi is this equipment. And my attachment to that makes me think that I am changing, I am going through all of this, I am this body, I am this mind, I am this intellect. When in essence, I am is simply all that there is. I am that substratum. Now, as it relates to pratyaksha pramana and what it can give us, one other pitfall we fall into often in our analysis of this world when it comes to these kinds of concepts leading up to Vedanta, I say leading up to Vedanta, not specifically Vedanta yet, is we have that tug of where does science come into this whole play? Because often in the news we hear science is getting closer to understanding things like the God particle or substratums, things like that. Science will never reach what Shastra is saying here. Science is only done by perception. Whatever can be measured and quantified is then analyzed, and then a conclusion is sought after that. Here, whatever this substratum is cannot be perceived. It's beyond all of that. Therefore, no matter how far science so-called, quote, progresses, it never comes to this concept here. Which is why at this point in ātmabodha, Shraddha is needed in Shastra. That I will not be able to perceive what this is. Next step is to start taking away these layers so that whatever is left after all these layers of my different upadhis I'm attached to, after all of those are torn away, whatever is left, that is that substratum. That's all I have, Swamiji.
Thank you, Hari. Hari Om. In the last shloka, we saw Upadane Akhila Dhare. In that Paramatma, which is the substratum, Jaganti Parameshware. All of these are seemingly existing because of it being merely a projected reality. So before I go in there, very beautifully, Bhagavan Adi Shankaracharya ji, even with the choice of words that he is using, he is trying to break several of our grooves that we have gotten into. One is Parameshware is usually used also with reference to Bhagavan Shiva. In the next two shlokas, he is talking about Vishnu and Hrishikesha. So he's trying to say that, one, that this Bhagavan Shiva or Vishnu, they are not different. They are just the office through which that Parabrahma Tattva is expressing. And depending on that, the nomenclature is different. Otherwise, Bhagavan Shiva or Vishnu or Hrishikesha, all of them are essentially nothing but that Paramatma, Parabrahma Swarupa alone. That is first point. Second point is, there is no Mata Bheda between Bhagavan Shiva being invoked or Bhagavan Vishnu being invoked or his avatara Hrishikesha Krishna being invoked. And those of them who are still fighting, saying, no, this is not right, then they have to reread and understand the scriptures better. Where I have heard, somebody who is quite popular in Andhra saying that, those who are devotees of Bhagavan Vishnu, they are several steps ahead of those who are devotees of Shiva. And that name we don't even utter. So I had the opportunity to meet, and one of my questions was, in Vishnu Sahasranama, there is both Shiva and Rudra. I said, oh, that must be a mistake. We don't chant it. They're so blatant about even the scripture, and they want to change the scripture to fit their idea. Usually it is, cut the head to fit the cap, and here they want to cut the head, cut the cap, cut anything else, so that what I am saying is that can be fit in. So that notion is also being removed. Another notion is, all of this, that which I am invoking, is also a part of this projected reality. That is a little much to digest. But he is already prepping our minds to prepare for it, to understand it, to assimilate it, by just very innocuously introducing these different terminologies. Now, moving forward, that same concept which has been given as the Mooladhara or Akhiladhara, that which is the substratum for everything and anything that which exists, because that Parabrahma Paramatma alone is the existential principle. Satchidatmani anusyute nitye Vishnau prakalpitaha. Satchidatmani anusyute, from the tiniest of the particle to the highest of the worlds, everything that which exists, whether it is in a gross form or in a subtle form. You and I cannot see the Vaikuntha or Goloka or Sri Loka or Indraloka, because that is the subtler world. And this, that which we perceive, is the gross world. So inclusive of the tiniest part of the gross world to the subtlest part of that world which we are not experiencing right now. Vyakta, Avyakta. All of this, anusyute. And to give further more clarity, even in that which is Vyakta, that which is Jada and that which is Chaitanya, that which is inert, insentient, and that which is sentient. See, the sentiency is because it is the Chidabhasa, Chit Abhasa, the reflected consciousness, is as though enlivening this mind, intellect, antakarana, which is then borrowed by the body and it feels enlivened. We are borrowed entity, so as to say. So that borrowed entity is as jada as the jada prapancha. But it appears as though it is Chaitanyavanta. It appears as though it is enlivened. It is as enlivened as, the car sales people have this huge, I don't know what material is, it must be plastic or nylon. There's this huge red thing that keeps kind of a thing that keeps flying because they have a blower underneath. Remove that blower, it will collapse. Even this Sarveshananda is speaking because of the touch of that Chaitanya. If that touch of Chaitanya is not there, what will happen? There is no Sarvesha, there is no Ananda. It is only the Jada, including that subtle which seems to be transmigrating from one body to the other. So anusyute meaning every aspect of so far all the categories that I have spoken. In and through all of this, there is one Parabrahma Paramatma alone. Anusyute, it is interwoven, meaning there is not a single particle out here which you can say this is something which is other than. If there is something other than which you call as it exists, you are experiencing because it is also being supported by that Akhiladhara, that one indivisible Chaitanya Swarupa alone. So, Satchidatmani Anusyute Nitye, and it is Nitya. Anything that which has temporariness is not this Paramatma Tattva. Nitya, that which is real. Nitya, that which is eternal. It is real because it is eternal. So somebody said, "Oh, Swamiji, I'm seeing you for after the 2 years. You're really balded." Anitya. The head also is Anitya. The thing that is supposed to be growing there, afforestation, is also Anitya. उसमें क्या फर्क पड़ता है? That Anitya meaning that which is not permanent, that which will not be in the same shape or form. I was watching National Geography, and they say the Earth's core is so volatile and constantly keeps churning that anything which is on the surface it goes inside, and that which is inside keeps coming gurgling out outside. Very, very unstable, but it that is how it keeps going. So the conclusion that he was drawing was amazing. It kind of hit some what was it, home run for me. Is there is not a single piece of stone or anything that is there on the surface of this earth, that which is tangible, which is as old as earth. Why? It has gone through the transformation, it constantly keeps getting transformed. Because of the very nature of this earth, it keeps moving in and out. That is the reality. Everything. Therefore, Gurudev's very famous statement is, change is the changeless law of this universe. Constantly there will be change. But if that change is being observed, there has to be some stable platform from which that change is being observed. Presently, our condition is that we are so identified with that which is changing and trying to decipher the other changes around, and there is a crisscross of so many motions that is happening. Once you start going, Baap re Baap, Vedanta is so difficult, No, Vedanta is not difficult. It is our identity which is making it difficult. It is something like you are in a fast train, and for all practical purposes you say that trees are going by, the hoardings are going by, the roads are going by, villages are going by. None of them are going. With reference to the train is going. Sometimes what happens, at the platform you are eagerly waiting for your loved one who has gone to get some food or water or whatever, and suddenly you feel that your train kind of jerked or moved, and it is and you see that the train is moving, and then you turn around and suddenly get confused because the train is not moving. Then what was moving? You turn your head, the other train on the other side of the platform, which was on the other track, which started moving, which gave you a temporary feeling as though you were moving. Now imagine, body is changing, mind is changing, intellect is changing, everything is changing. Identified with all these changes, there is that tear that keeps happening, that confusion keeps deepening. Hope I have been able to communicate that part. But that which is not changing, observing all these changes, therefore in Tattva-bodha we go through all the layers, right? When we discussed what is Atma, we said that which is Panchakoshatitaha san, that which is beyond the Panchakosha, that which is the Avasthatraya Sakshi, that which is the witness of these avasthas. There is one constant, whichever category that you see, whichever classification that you put in, there is one, and that which we call as Satchidananda. So that is the Nitya Vastu. And all of these they can be experienced, but how is their experience? In a state of Maya. As Hari very aptly put it, he said, Prakalpitaha, don't interpret it as just pure imagination, but it is that which is projected. So that which is projected will appear real. So real that knowing that you are going into a cinema theater, and in that cinema theater there will be only a projection, knowing that there are people who carry Kleenex boxes to cry their hearts out, Ganga, Yamuna, Saraswati, why? Kuch kuch hota hai. Something happens. There are several such sob stories, and there are people who have this Yearly, they have confessed, and that is how I come to know. They have confessed, saying that they on a yearly based ritual watch those sob stories again and again and again. Some commonality you feel, but the point is, you know that it is a projected reality. I say it is okay to cry. Go cry. Why? Because when you come out, dil halka rehta hai. Because you know that that was not real, and you had a safe space for you to vent out all your emotions. Now you are ready for fresh talk. Prakalpitaha meaning just projected, and that is the Maya Shakti, Avarana Shakti. Prakalpitaha. Vyaktayo vividhaha sarvaha. All that which is vyaktayaha, expressions. Now, all these expressions meaning what? You, me, and everything is, though appearing different, right? We think different, we feel different, our convictions are different. Supposing there are about 15, 16 of you watching this or listening to this class, and at the end of the class, write down the notes. Each one of you will be using a similar vocabulary, but the bhava of each one will be completely different. So it gives us the validity that hum alag alag hain, like we are different. But in reality, every abhasa chaitanya is an expression of that, because that doesn't get actually divided by this seeming divisions that we see. Supposing there is that sun and the sun is falling on, recently somebody reminded me of that example. In several cities that I have grown up, while growing up, there was this water for everything else and water for cooking and drinking. There were two sets of water lines that used to come in. Give me a thumbs up if you have been in a city which. So, and that too, that water, drinking water would come every alternate day or every third day. It was not a regular daily thing. This is way before the Bisleri bottles became a reality. Way before that. So, whatever is that timing, we would take, every handi, every basin, every pot, every glass, every spoon, fill up with water, and that too, stack it up, one over the other, or the other over the other, and the tiniest, and be very meticulous about its use. Right. You must have gone through all of that, right? So in and through that entire experience of these, appearing in several shapes, sizes, there is only one water that is there. And next example, continuing from it, if all of those containers are kept in the hall and the sunlight is beaming forth through the ventilator or wherever, and it is falling on this water surface and on the ceiling, you see several reflections hitting. Each reflection will have a different distinct size, shape. But did the sun feel divided? No. There's hardly any difference. There's absolutely no difference at all. Then, but I see the difference. That is only in appearance. There is no vastavikata for it. Why? There is only sun which is real. Rest of it cannot exist without that sun. As a vastavikata, it doesn't have its own independent glow. It is a borrowed glow. So when they say तुम इतनी खूबसूरत लगती हो, तुम इतने अच्छे लगते हो, तुम इतने borrowed glow. All of that is the expression of that divine alone. Therefore, the example given, hatake katakadivat. So, when you talk about, this design of a ring or what do you call, necklace or something. So if you have to display, and through that display your identity, and if it is you who have designed it, then there is a little more pride in your ingenious way of thinking through the design and making sure that the skilled person knows how to translate your vision into and you wear it with pride. All others are one. This is a special piece. But that day when you have to share it, sell it, or at that time you are not looking at the design of it. There we become completely, like we say, Vedantin. We become Goldartin. There we are not looking at the size and the shape. What is it that we want to be divided? If that fellow is getting 13 grams, 13.5 grams, me also should be getting 13.5 grams. What grams are you talking about? The form and the shape and the name, they don't have any such value. The utility that you were hankering about, that is not seen. What is seen? You see the essence. अपन को कितना gold मिल रहा है, right? So I say the Vedanta can be taught to a goldsmith very, very easily. Why? He cuts through all these names and forms and goes to the substratum, gold. Whether it is Ramji, whether it is Hanumanji, whether it is your Jhumka from Bareilly, it doesn't matter. It all goes. If it is gold, it goes in the same value. Its utility is not seen. So continuing, Yathakasho Hrishikeshaha. Now Hrishikeshaha means Hrishika Shrhishikanam meaning Sarvendriyanam, all the Indriyas. Ishaha, the one who is the boss, the lord of all of these. That is the Atma Chaitanya. Here, though that first point that I started this very discourse with, that is also indicated, but moving forward from there, this we are not talking about that Bhagavan Krishna who has Kale Ghane Lambe Gungrale Bal, therefore Hrishikeshaha. No, we are not talking about that. We are talking about the substratum, which is the Atma Chaitanya. That very Atma Chaitanya who was called Parameshwara in the 8th shloka, Vishnu in the 9th shloka, is being called as Hrishikesha in this 10th shloka. Now in this particular shloka, the focal point is the discussion about the upadhi. Now what is a upadhi? The example that was spoken earlier was a good example. The sphatika, the crystal. Now what happens with the crystal? The crystal is somewhere, I am somewhere. It is not going to borrow this orange color and appear like a orange crystal. When will it appear as an orange crystal? When there is proximity. When there is that close proximity, that is when it seems as though it is borrowing the qualities. The tadatmyata seems to appear. Tadatmyata, that which seems to be real. So the first point of the upadhi is the close proximity. Clear? The second aspect of it is that there should be this tadatmyata wherein it appears as though the qualities are transferring. So in our day-to-day reality, the Sharira, Mana, Buddhi, mine as well as everyone else, it seems as though it is Chetanavantaha. It is enlivened, as though it is the very expression of life. We tend to see it through the body, mind, and intellect. And that is actually a borrowed aspect. Borrowed from where? Because of the close proximity of that Chaitanya-Tattva. Why is there that close proximity? Anusyute. Because everything that which exists is interwoven by that substratum. There is nothing which is not interwoven by that substratum. So sometimes there is this feeling that we sit in front of Bhagavan, that Bhagavan who is all pervading, ever existing, eternal, and for our convenience, it is like a child playing with his parents. The child has a room, the child says to the father, now go out. Dude, your room is in my house. Okay, I provide for this. You have absolutely no way of saying that, I should come in or get out. Right? Similarly, it feels as though like, that Bhagavan, Agachha Deva Devesha, hey Bhagavan, please come. And that's why Bhagavan is like this, right? All Bhagavans are like this. Why are they like this? They're like, hey, tham zara. Stop now, okay? Agacha, gacha, gacha, where are you talking? What are you talking? I'm always here, dude. Bhagavan is saying that I'm always here. I've never been, there has never been a moment where I have not been. But we make the grand, glorious, please come. And then at the end, we do the Udvasana. Udvasana, they say, Yathasthanam pradisthapayami kshemaya punaragamanaaya cha. Tadan. Say, Bhagavan, you must be hungry. Let me feed you Naivedya. I will do the Abhisheka for you. This is our necessity. Bhagavan is always pure. समझ रहे हैं बात? This is only for our mind to focus, train, and to transcend. Bhagavan never has such requirement or a demand list. If there is a demand, that fellow must be a jiva. Cannot be Bhagavan. Why? Bhagavan doesn't have any such demand list. Therefore, Bhagavan keeps announcing in Bhagavad Gita so many times, Nachame karmani, there is no kartrutva bhoktrutva for me, there is no such limitation. And that Bhagavan is this very Chaitanya. From that Chaitanya, these things are borrowing it. Just like the crystal is borrowing it from my cloth. Is it really borrowing? See, if it was borrowing, like Hari's example, from yellow to orange to white to again yellow, intermittently, whenever that change happens, I have to take that crystal and scrub that yellow color so that my orange color will be given into it. Then the orange color has to be scrubbed and then the white color will be given into it. ऐसा कुछ नहीं हो रहा है, but it appears. The second point is it appears. Third point is this appearance is only in the projection of what I am identifying with, but not a reality. Meaning it has that inherent truth that this projection is, that which I am seeing is only a pratyaksha, but false inherently. So going back to the shloka, once this upadhi is understood. Did you all get the concept of upadhi? Thumbs up, thumbs down. Okay, good. So if this upadhi is understood, then going back to this nana upadhigato vibhu, that vibhu appears as though has gone through several of these upadhis. So therefore it appears as though there is differences. There appears as though there are khanda. But there is no khanda possible in that akhanda tattva. Akhanda mandalakaram vyaptam yena characharam. Tad bhedat bhinnavat bhati tan nashe kevalo bhavet. This nasha word has to be understood, because we keep giving the example of the dream, and when we wake up, the entire dream world is gone. In this jnana, like tan nashe, like all of this names, forms, everything will get destroyed. Arre baapre, it is more powerful than atomic bomb. Because all names, forms get destroyed with that atomic bomb, then this seems to destroy of the entire universe. No, that Vikshepa Shakti is not yours or mine. It is of that Maya Shakti, of that Ishvara. Therefore, it is not that the names and forms are destroyed, it's a Satyatva Buddhi in our conviction is getting destroyed. That all these differences are actually differences, assuming those differences, that division is what is destroyed. And it is not trying to say that all these differences are one and the same. No. That which is the substratum of all of this, that is the indivisible truth. We somewhere miss that gap. Everything is the same, everyone is the same, every practice is the same, every belief is the same. Ghanta nahi hai. The differences are differences in their appearance. The substratum is the indivisible truth. And that substratum, we called that substratum as the Akhiladhara, Parameshwara, Vishnu, Vibhu. Vibhu meaning that which is the substratum on who all this Vividhakara, Vividam Bhavati, Yaha Saha, that who which appears in multitude as the substratum, as the very essence of it. So if this is contemplated upon, what does this help in? This helps the seeker in transcending clearly. If understood properly, it helps the seeker transcend the identifications and the attachments to that which is anitya. Anitya meaning body, mind and intellect, and that which the body, mind and intellect thinks that it needs a support for. So therefore the objects, emotions, thoughts, all of this, that which I am depending upon, the presence or absence of it creating fear, anxiety, or loneliness, or depression, all of this is in that attachment. Attachment of who? The ego. The ego itself is a reflected entity. Therefore, I, the one who is the conscious principle, is the one in whose presence all this natak happens. I, when not there, nothing of this can exist. I am that Chaitanya-Tattvam. And to understand it, that detachment has to happen, meaning that conviction has to change. That everything is temporary, therefore I should not be attached with. My mind should not be attached with. Clear? Satsangatve Nissangatvam, that detachment has to happen. First step. So if the detachment has happened, then the 11th, 12th shlokas will make more sense. So you have 1 week to experiment and ascertain your detachments. All the best. May Ma Bhagavati Shri Mahalakshmi Devi bless us all with a tikshna, sukshma, sthira buddhi to understand, assimilate and ascertain this standpoint. So happy Dhanteras and happy Diwali. We will conclude here. As I always say, if you have any questions, ping me on the group and we will answer. Either there on the group or here in the class. Hari Om. Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shant Shant Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Take care, everyone. See you in the next satsang. And happy 5 days of Deepavali. Thursday, we are going to have Deepavali Puja in the evening, of course, online. So please join. If you have attended these Sunday teacher satsang, you already know about the face-to-face that I have already announced. If not, go back, listen to it. Hari Om.